Welcome back to Gene and Roger Talk Movies. We're doing, oh my gosh,
Resurrection.
Resurrection. All right, it's some sort of movie where there's some sort of resurrection going on. Currently available on Shudder, I think.
Shudder. It's not the Resurrection. It's just Resurrection.
Resurrection.
You can say it.
Okay.
Resurrection.
2022 release, playing on
modern.
Shudder right now. I am going to give a very brief plot synopsis. Rebecca Hall plays this.
Hey, let me just say, Rebecca Hall is a fan favorite of mine. She's been in a lot of cool movies, that I've watched. So like a couple examples is The Town. It seems like Ben Affleck wanted to make a remake of the movie Heat, Al Pacino's masterpiece, if you want to call it that. But The Town, she was in that. The BFG, Big Friendly Giant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah. So she was in that. A smaller movie that is really like a favorite of mine, but Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman is kind of like a story about the genesis of the comic strip, Wonder Woman. So it's
Well, and you're forgetting, of course.
What am I forgetting?
Godzilla versus Kong.
Oh, yes, Godzilla versus Kong. How can I forget that? And she's also in the new
Godzilla x Kong.
Yeah. This
Frozen New Empire or whatever it's called.
whatever. It's about to hit the movie theaters with a huge, colossal tornado. But anyway, I've been a Rebecca Hall fan. So I think that's what attracted me to this movie, The Resurrection. I saw it on Shudder. Mm-hmm. So it's like, let's check it out.
Well, and the basic plot, again, is she plays, I don't know, like a pharmaceutical executive
she's a pharmaceutical executive, makes big bucks, as they all do.
Yeah, real prim and proper. Her apartment complex is immaculate. She's got this daughter that's just about ready to go off to college.
Right,
her
she's
whole
got
life
it together.
is perfect. Everything's going great.
Got a big office. She's got staff. Yeah.
And then one day she sees this person, and apparently this is a person from her past, and it sends
a pharmaceutical a meeting. There's a person presenting very dryly on the new drug, I guess, and then she sees this guy from her past in the same room, and then her life completely unravels.
Spirals out of control.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Gene, where are you at with this one?
I like movies that don't just spoon feed it to you, and this movie definitely falls under that. Is it horror? Yeah, absolutely horror. So I really like this movie. I'm a little biased because I'm a Rebecca Hall fan. No, maybe, but I like it. This movie's. I think it's all about, I'm always about looking at themes, and I think it's the themes of, like we all have our weaknesses and maybe our little demons, and sometimes they can come back to us, and I think also there's some heavy things that go on in our lives, and I think, time is, I think we dealt with this last week in the Babadook, but I think if we're not dealing with the powerful influences and events in our life, then that makes us vulnerable to being a future victim, and so we have to really deal with things. Time is not a cure in any sense. So I think this movie really touches on that.
This movie is very complex and has a lot of potential interpretations on how this film plays out.
But I was thinking, is like this movie, if you look at it, it's really simple how it plays out. Because she's a pharmaceutical exec, super successful. The kid's about to go to college. She sees the guy. They meet again. She's not happy. And then, it's just like it's not complicated in how it's put together. It's just really kind of simple, but it has a really deep message.
Well, it does, but it also has a lot of complexities to the plot. At one point, Rebecca Hall's character tells this intern that she's been working with and mentoring this very lengthy exposition sequence where she's explaining what happened to her in her past.
Right. I think she wants to share because this intern has been sharing about her personal life and this very abusive boyfriend. And so I think that stirs up memories of this particular guy. His name's David, played by Tim Roth. Mm-hmm. It was perfect casting, by the way. But so she tells this elaborate story of when,
Elaborate and almost, well, unbelievable story if you were the listener or the person hearing it.
yeah, because it involves murder and involves
Cannibalism of a baby.
Right, right. I think David is, yeah, the story is that David meets Margaret when she's a teen, and he kind of seduces her.
Yeah, he's
And
much
she's
much older.
much
than her.
older, yeah, and so he seduces her, and then kind of lures her away from Margaret's parents. And then they have an affair. She gets pregnant and gives birth to a baby, and then David ignores. Well, in their relationship, David is very manipulative. He makes her do what's called kindnesses.
Yes.
Which involves, like, cleaning for me, doing these things, tasks. But of course, they evolve into like standing in stress positions for long periods of times, going without food for days and days,
burning yourself with cigarettes.
Burning yourself with cigarettes. And there's a scene where she shows those burn marks on her back. Yeah, so she submits to this, and she was young, and she gave in to David.
But did you catch the fact that, because
Yeah.
her parents are both deceased as well, did you catch the fact that there was the one line of dialogue where she made a clear mention that he enjoyed sharing alcoholic beverages with his family?
Yes.
With her family, and
Yes.
then, well, did they get killed via a drunk driving accident? I don't know.
The movie doesn't get into that.
No.
She just says they're deceased.
Yeah, but it dropped that little clue there where his domination and control over her started slowly, and then
Right, 'cause
I'm going to isolate you by removing your family.
Well, they were biologists, and they were from England, and they were doing some research in Western Canada, and that's where they met David. And so their research ended. I just took their research ended, and they left.
I just thought it was interesting that she talks about how they're deceased, and then there's that dialogue exchange between Tim Roth and Rebecca Hall where she is talking specifically about how he enjoyed sharing all of these alcoholic beverages with
she
the
did say
parents.
that David wooed the parents. Yeah. So first of all, the first step in manipulation was getting the parents on his side, and he was successful in that. Like this long nights, like drinking. He was also, I guess, a scientist as well at that time, and so. Yeah, so he checked off all the boxes to finally isolate her and to get her by herself.
Yep.
Yeah, so
and
he's
then
successful with that.
But this story that she is telling the intern ends with the cannibalization of the baby by David.
Yeah, I took that as that did David actually eat the baby? I don't think David actually ate the baby. I think David. It's clearly what's the right word, Rogers? Sociopath, psychopath, this murderer.
Well, he's a sadist.
Sadist for sure. Yeah, and I think Margaret has the baby, and then Margaret and the baby are inseparable. The baby's name is Benjamin.
Right, he's jealous.
Yeah. So David's jealous. So he gets after the baby's a few months old, I think, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah,
he gets Margaret to go into town to get supplies, right? So Margaret agrees. She goes into town, comes back, and finds two of the baby's fingers on like the kitchen counter, and then Margaret wants to know what happened, and then David says, "Oh, I ate the baby." I don't think David really ate the baby. I think he just killed the baby and disposed of the body. And he just said that as part of his sadism, part of the story to string her along, And then he just, when they meet again, he manipulates her again by saying that, "Oh, Benjamin's in my belly." He's got this little middle-aged, little paunchy belly, So yeah, Benjamin's in my belly. And he's here, and if you're good to me, if you do more kindnesses to me, then I'll go away, and I'll take care of Benjamin. And then she falls for that because she never took care of her grief. She never took care of the relationship with David. She just kind of ran away from him, never kind of resolved it.
So very early on in this film, before you even really know the depth of where it's going to go. There's a sequence where Rebecca Hall is talking with her daughter. Daughter's getting ready to go off to college.
Yeah, Abby.
And the daughter pulls out this tooth that's been somehow placed on her person. You discover later that it is David's tooth. How did that happen? What are you thinking at that moment where this random tooth just appears and is never mentioned again?
Yeah, Abby likes going over to a friend's house to hang out. They play video games, online together. She's got this whole video game setup. Reminds me of my 16-year-old. But she's out riding a bike, and she's involved in a somewhat serious accident on her bike, and she gets this somewhat nasty laceration on her left leg. And so later it's alluded to that David and Margaret are meeting in like a little diner, and he kind of alludes to, you want to keep your daughter safe. So I think maybe David caused Abby to have an accident, and maybe he planted something on her at that time.
But that was before. This is really early. Was
that before the accident?
Mm-hmm.
So it just shows that David is weaseling his way into their lives, kind of like an analogy to another kind of a horror movie that is pretty good, but like maybe in a Cape Fear kind of way. So if you're familiar with that movie's like really demented. But
after watching the entire film and then trying to isolate that tooth sequence, I was just like, what was that director trying to convey right there? And maybe you're right, but I also think it's like, well, maybe we're also setting up kind of this supernatural element going on, because where the movie ends up going delves deep into, it could be some sort of supernatural thing going on here, or it could be a hallucination thing going on here, a complete mental health breakdown going on here. And so that tooth sequence just seems weird to me, that it's just there, never discussed again. Right. And then the rest of the movie plays out where, okay, is that tooth, what is that tooth trying to do?
Yeah, I think it's when it appears, it kind of like it's to me, it showed that something is radically amiss here. Mm-hmm. It's like everything seems to be in order. Like we talked about, the pharmaceutical executive, the big office, the staff. She gives complex presentations. Clearly, she's knowledgeable and respected in her field. Makes tons of money. But then the daughter, who seems to have it okay as well, pulls out this tooth. So something is terribly amiss here. Yeah. There's something something that's not being said. And the daughter brings that up later, is that Margaret starts freaking out because this guy comes back in her life. He's always wearing this dreary, frumpy brown jacket for some reason. Yeah, and so it made me think, is this David was he even ever really there?
Right. And that's one of the cool things about this movie, like I was just alluding to, where there's a lot of different interpretations as to what's going on in this film.
Yeah, and was he a figment of her imagination from the get-go? And then, because I was thinking is that Margaret's life is going under these big trials right now, because she's alone with Abby, and Abby's about to leave her,
go off to college.
And so and she mentioned, there was a line in there. It's that, I don't know if I remember it, but because it reminded me of like my relationship with my kids. He's only a sophomore, but he was going off to college, and he's talking about college now and all this stuff. And, it's like, as a mom, Margaret says something like parenthood is like a slow death, or a coming apocalypse, or or a planned obsolescence, or something like that.
Right, because you have to give so much for a period of years, and then the whole objective is be free for your children, and you're left alone there. You've done your job, but you're obsolete now. Right.
It's like it's a big deal. It's like I feel like it's coming for me, and it's like I don't know if I really like it. Because you do that, you pour your life out, for 18, 19, 20 years, and then what? Because that's the objective. The objective is to get them to stand tall and to be strong and make wise, common sense decisions. And then
they're off on their own.
Yeah,
You've done your job, Gene.
But so I think that, sorry, but I think that's coming up. And then also this trusted intern, she's leaving as well. And so I think, these people leaving her life have kind of given her a lot of stress. And so is this David guy even real?
Right, because the first time she sees him in that conference, the movie immediately ramps up with the intensity because she has a significant panic attack there. And from that point forward, her character and her acting continues to decay. So you really do feel the internal stress that she's going through, because you can see it in the actress. She does a fantastic job, of course. But it's very potentially unnerving for a viewer to watch her go through all this, because you really don't know what exactly the whole problem is.
Yeah, because you kept wondering, because this David guy appears and he's like meek and like frail almost. It's like Rebecca Hall, as she runs, she's athletic. She could just kick his ass easily, I think.
Well, and she kind of does that with her little boyfriend guy
she beats up his boyfriend who was married and they have an affair.
Well, but I think that's part of her deal.
That's part of her, she has unhealthy relationships.
See, and that's the thing with this film is it can take you down so many different roads as far as what it's trying to tell you, right? Because there is another sequence where she's kind of in the midst of her panic attacks going forward, and then, what's that smell coming from my oven? What's the smoke coming out of my oven?
It's a pretty horrific image.
Opens the oven to find a tiny baby in there. That's
live baby in an oven,
and then
burning.
It screams out in pain, and then she wakes up from her
it's
dream and stuff. But it's going down roads like this where what is really happening here? Is it all? I mean, that clearly was in her mind. There clearly was no baby in there.
Right.
And then as you go along, there's a lot of back and forth between the Tim Roth character and the Rebecca Hall character about how she abandoned her baby way back in the day.
Yeah.
And it was her fault that this happened to her child. And so what are we talking about here? Did David legitimately kill this child? Did she abort this child? What's happened here?
She does allude to that, because she does say that I tried to get rid of it. But then she goes on to say I gave birth to it in the house by myself on the bed.
Mm-hmm.
She does say that, and she does say that she took care of it. But she's kind of an unreliable narrator there, so you're wondering. And then you're also wondering, like I was going to get to earlier, this David Roth character is Tim Roth. David in the movie is meek, and he tells her to do these kindnesses, and she submits to it. And one of them is to don't drive your car to work, but instead walk to work barefoot. Yeah. And she does it. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, what are you doing? It made me think that, well, it's like, it's a cliche, women who have relationships with these terrible guys, and we just dump that guy, and it just keeps going. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, maybe it falls into that trap, And then she gets a gun, and she's going to kill this guy. Mm-hmm. But she hesitates at the end. David takes the gun away from her.
Well, and that's after, though, that there was a scene where she did shoot him in the head and kill him. And so there's this...
Yeah, but I think she's thinking about that.
Right.
She's thinking about that. But then she actually tries to do it, and then she can't do it.
But the movie really tries to keep you off balance by not really knowing what's real and what's not real.
Right.
And, the unreliable narrator that Eugene just said, that fits perfectly here, because is she just an insane person that's having a significant breakdown and none of this is happening? There's an intervention that is attempted. The daughter immediately picks up on, Mom, you're something's wrong.
Oh, yeah, because she's acting irrationally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're staying out all night, creeping around, trying to track this guy down, all this stuff.
Right, not sleeping.
And looking like hell, not going to work.
Right.
And the daughter's like, what's going on?
Yeah. And then the daughter knows that she's being lied to,
Mm-hmm.
and so the mom's just giving her excuses or, lies is where she really is. But yeah, it's going to the end sequence, David tells Margaret to meet him at a hotel room. So I kind of was thinking.
Well, but I think we also need to talk about how the fact that the Tim Roth character has basically said, this baby is still alive in my stomach after 22 years or however long it's been.
He does say that.
And there's a sequence where the Rebecca Hall character kind of starts to believe that.
Oh, yeah. I think she, in a way, she wants to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
She wants that baby to still be alive, although it's impossible.
Right. And
22 years later, it'd be a grown man.
Then there's the sequence that Gene just mentioned about they're going to meet at this hotel room.
Yeah, I thought there David was going to kill Margaret.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like it would be end of the story for Margaret. But no, this is the end of the story. And this movie just goes kind of, for me, it just went off the rails right here. Because I was like watching it and I was like, when this hotel room sequence started, I was like, what in the world? I was not expecting that.
Yeah, Margaret has come armed. She's got two knives hidden to her body. And then there's this knife fight sequence.
Yeah, and they both get stabbed. David gets stabbed much worse.
Yes.
Stabbed in the abdomen, which is always bad. Rebecca gets stabbed in the back. I mean, bad, but not so bad. Like in the shoulder area. Mm-hmm. It's not quite so lethal. And so Margaret gets the other knife that was taped to her shin, and then she cuts his Achilles, and then pulls him off the bed, and then flattens him out on the floor, and then with one of the knives, she's gonna
see if there's a baby.
She's gonna see if there's a baby in there, and she opens him up while he's still alive. While she's opening him up, he's still talking to her, which was what in the world. Yeah, and then he dies, of course, and then she's putting her, and then she can tell at the beginning she's trying to be careful, and then she's like, just F it. And then she just rips the thing open, rips his abdomen open, and throwing the intestines all over the place.
And lo and behold.
And then as a viewer, you're just like, what in the world am I watching? Yeah, and then lo and behold, what's in there?
A baby.
A baby.
That is crying out for his mother.
Yeah. So she... This is a physical impossibility, so it's like... Just, is she imagining it? Is he really real? Is she in the hotel room?
Well, did she just kill and mutilate this guy?
Yeah, did she?
And the baby part's just part of the overall fantasy. Who knows?
Right.
Because then there's the ending sequence where your mind is immediately going to go to this is a dream sequence because the apartment is prim and proper again. It's bathed in a really bright white light. She looks great. Yeah. She's got the baby. The daughter is there. Great. Hey, Mom, everything's great.
The daughter's about to leave for college. She's got her bags packed. There's a baby there, and it just seems like normal. Because where did this baby come from? Mom, you just don't get babies off. You just don't find them and take them home.
Right.
That's not the way it works.
Yeah.
So.
And then she gives the baby to the daughter, and then the camera moves in on her face as she is looking all happy, but then she gasps, and then the movie ends. So lots of interpretations can be done here with this film.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
The interpretation right there at that moment could just be she just now has realized that all of this was a lie and she's horribly murdered somebody. It could also be a completely unrelated scene where she is now beginning to experience that trauma, remembering what that trauma was, and that trauma was actually real. Lots of different interpretations for this film.
Yeah. Was the David guy even real? Although there's a clue that he was real because in the diner, he's sitting in the diner and the waitress brings him coffee as if he was there before Rebecca shows up. So Yeah, maybe, but the whole killing sequence, it's just like, you got to bring up, how do you kill somebody in a hotel room and then like get away with that?
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, that might be a tough thing
Well, and I mean,
to make that happen.
the movie keeps you off balance all the time because there's one sequence early on as the Rebecca Hall character is starting to go through all the anxiety. She sees David sitting on a park bench and actually goes over and approaches him and is telling him to stay away from her and her daughter. But David has a completely different vision or version of what happened there. He said, hey, look, you just walked up to me, shook my hand, and started telling me all this stuff. And that's not what happened, at least what we saw visually, right? And so this movie just is really good at keeping you off balance, getting you to feel her anxiety as she's going down this spiral. And so it is very good. Will I ever watch this film again? It's probably a movie that would deserve a second or third viewing to
really catch other things. Yeah.
But will I? I doubt it. I like my horror to be a lot of fun, I guess, even when it can be, even something like Audition, which is not fun, but it is fun if you're into horror movies. This one is more of a, just get to where you're going. And when it got to the sequence in the hotel room, I was loving every second of that sequence. But I do think it's a little longer than it needs to be. But I would highly recommend it anyway.
Yeah, I would recommend this movie. I don't think it's that long. I think it runs right in about 90 minutes, I think. So it's,
I just think they could have sliced down a little bit of the interactions between her and the intern. I didn't need that, and I think they could have.
I gotta disagree with you.
They could have done away with one or so of the "I'm tracking him around" kind of scenes.
I don't know about that, but that's to me that would be a minor point. That's not a
definitely saying to see
distracting element there.
Definitely saying watch it for sure.
Yeah, this is good stuff. You gotta appreciate Shudder. I mean, there's some dumb stuff on Shudder.
Which I love.
No. There's this really dumb movie about a T-Rex and a teenager, and it's just I tried to watch
Tammy and the T-Rex.
Dude, I tried to watch this thing, and it was the stupidest thing. The word "stupid" fits. I got to use it. I couldn't watch it. I had to stop. Done.
Well, you don't understand early '90s teen exploitation.
Well, let's not talk about So I'm just saying, thanks, Shudder. Shudder has cool stuff. I probably wouldn't have found Resurrection if it wasn't on Shudder, but there it is. And so, I really like this movie. Yeah, I totally recommend it.
And Rebecca Hall just
she blows it out,
acting like you wouldn't believe. She really makes you believe that she is a prim and proper person who is now going down an anxiety, panic-stricken spiral, and does a great job. Actually, the acting across the board is good. In this one. Yeah. And so the director did a great job. It's well worth your time. Whether you'll ever want to see it a second time, I don't know. But speaking of Shudder, Late Night with the Devil is actually going to premiere on Shudder on April 19th. So we should do that. That's the one that's currently playing at the theater, but now that Godzilla X Kong is at the theater, I'll have to see that.
Movies don't have runtimes anymore, because we saw Dune 2 on this big screen just not too long ago. We really liked it. We wanted to watch it again, so we went to the movie theater again. And it's had to be on the smaller screen now because of the stupid. What's that dumb movie that's out right now? The new Ghostbusters piece of garbage is out now. It's like, come on.
Well, I'm sure Godzilla X Kong has taken over the IMAX screen.
Yeah. So movies don't. I remember when I was a kid, Star Wars was at the Cooper Theater, the huge big screen theater in Denver, for like 5 months.
A year, yeah.
Yeah, I would love that.
The thing with Dune 2, though, is it demands an IMAX theater because it was filmed completely with IMAX cameras, which is a rarity.
You got to see it in the big screen.
So, yeah, for sure. But we are way off on
we're way off topic.
Podcast-related things. Gene, any idea what we want to do next week?
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think I should get to pick.
You keep talking about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey Part 2. I think you just got to be you and our guest speaker, Tyken.
Well, and Tyken did text me about that.
I'm not going to watch that movie.
He was trying to offer you treats, and you turned him down.
No, I'm not going to do it. I can't debase myself. I got to have some kind of standards here. No, I won't do it.
No, that's good. So as
we'll
usual,
figure something out.
Yeah, something will happen next week. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.